Oh, we are live.
Hi, we're live. Oh, of course the dog walks away as soon as we go live. There's a dog here, everyone.
Yeah.
You can't see him, but he is here.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll come back.
We're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Stay to watch the dog. Come for the book, stay for the dog. I'm Lelia from One More Page Books. And I'm really excited to be here. I haven't seen you in so long.
I know. We used to do a thing at Arlington Library.
Yeah, you all may remember.
Was it every other month or every month?
I feel like it was every other month. It feels like it was monthly, but realistically, I do think it was every other month.
I don't think we could. I don't think any of us at the bandwidth.
So if you're one of the 4 people that came to those,
that's not true. We had some.
No, but there were like regulars.
Do you remember? Oh, we had some definite regulars. But like when we had Jason Reynolds on there, this was right before he blew up. By the way, so we knew him before.
Yeah, no big deal. It's fine.
And but when we got him in there was a couple other people that would come and really kind of drew big crowds.
It was great panels.
But
it was about craft.
Yeah, it was a very craft focused sort of like nuts and bolts. Like let's talk about how to write stuff. Yeah. And the library was lovely for hosting us, Nico.
Yeah, thank you, Arlington Library. Oh, shout out to Nico.
Yeah. Nico kind of organized all of that. So,
shining light.
I do miss it a bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was hard to organize.
It was. It was many years, and at a certain point, organizing gets very challenging. So instead,
anyway.
let's just do a random, unplanned live video about your new book.
Yes. I like that.
So, you've written a lot of books.
But 12. This is my 12th.
I was going to try to count them.
Published novel. 12. And there are at least 5 more in the pipe currently.
5 more. Write that down, everybody.
We'll bring it up to 17.
Oof, love that. A prime number.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Gutter Mage, which just came out last week. Yeah. So Gutter Mage by J.S. Kelley from Saga Press. Yeah. Look at that beauty.
It is pretty. I'm gonna.
Yeah. There you go.
This is an image of the protagonist, Rosalind Featherstone, which there was some podcast that my publicist has been kind of feeding me links to stuff.
Nice, good job, publicist.
And one of them was a podcast in which they hadn't read it yet, but it was on the TBR stack for them, and they were talking about the conceit and stuff, and then they were reading. They were like, Rosalind Featherstone. That sounds like a Victorian drag queen, and I was like. It's not, but I'll go with that.
Is it sure?
I am 100% fine with that. So yeah,
that's your next series.
Yeah, that's my next series.
Roz, to be honest with you, made this book for me. I just completely from the start was I'm a slow reader, so it's hard for me to get into a book. Yeah. But I immediately was like, oh my god, Roz is an icon. If you like your characters too. Sorry, we gotta get those leaves out of there. They're just really causing problems. Happy fall, everybody. So Roz, just amazingly efficient and also swears like a sailor. I think are 2 of my favorite qualities, especially when you're solving a mystery.
Yeah.
But set in a fantasy world, right?
Yeah.
Right? Aren't you into it? Yeah. So tell me, about.
So,
I'm trying to be more specific about it.
Yeah, no.
Roz is awesome. And tell me about how awesome Roz is.
First of all, it's Roz is a very divisive character I've discovered. I kind of expected that going in. I'll be honest with you. She's very provocative. She says a lot of things, and I should be clear. Not everything she says, I personally agree with. It's also pretty clear that she's got a lot of problems. She's absolutely 100% an asshole. She is also absolutely 100% an alcoholic. There's no getting around
that. Yes.
She drinks a lot. But I love her. And honestly, Leaf blower again.
Right by the window.
Hello, leaf blower man. So Roz is kind of. I'll be honest with you. Roz is kind of my id. I could write Roz. Forever. I could just write Roz mysteries for the rest of my life, and I told my editor this. I was like, I could keep doing this. He has yet to tell me whether I'm jumping. I know I'm jumping. Normally, you're supposed to talk about what's at the end. Yeah. But I'm going to talk about it right now. Well, I already brought it up.
It was organically.
So Gutter Mage is a mystery. It's being billed as a fantasy, but as I told my editor early on, it's a subtle distinction, but I would actually call it more like a crime novel set in a fantasy world.
That's exactly what I'm talking.
It doesn't feel like a fantasy. It doesn't read like a fantasy. It's not structured like a fantasy. It's structured actually much closer to a classic noir, like a Raymond Chandler or a Dashiell Hammett or dare I even say Mickey Spillane. I'm not sure I would never call Mickey Spillane, but structured exactly. But
she, I mean, Roz is a very hard-boiled character, and you do feel that like
yes.
noir essence. And like you said, the structure it is mystery introduced, and then sort of like on the case, but a little bit reluctantly. I don't want to say that's not really fair.
No, no, she works hard, and she doesn't mind working hard. What she doesn't like is kind of like mainstream exposure, and she has a real kind of complex. She's one of those people like me who kind of is somewhat afraid of success. Like she has a hard time, not to like give it away, but like things kind of work out for her in the end. Not 100%, but in many ways. She's a doggy. So this is our third. Our third
interview, yeah.
But but at the end of it, she's kind of a big deal by the end of the book. At the beginning, she's kind of toiling in obscurity with her partner, but by the end, she's kind of a big deal, and she's very uneasy with that.
She's so specific about, and this is also part of like the elements of the world that you build. Is but when they call her a mage, she's like, no, I'm not a mage. I just have magic, right? Like so. I mean, so there's two elements to that. There's like a leaf blower man. I think he's like doing it on purpose. He keeps going right back and forth in front of the window. There's not that many leaves there. I'll be honest with y'all.
Where are the leaves? I didn't just hear. Maybe he hears us. So what we're talking. The connotations for magic and mages. So the way that this world works. This is an idea that I've been kind of kicking around for a long time. It's not entirely revolutionary, but I think my particular take on it is pretty fun. It's this idea that like magic is advanced and complicated enough to the point where it basically made the Industrial Revolution unnecessary. So it has a kind of early 1900s feel, like 1930s, pretty much. And there are cars, but they're not cars. They're actual horseless carriages powered by magic. And there are refrigerators. There is refrigeration, but again, it's not powered by Freon or whatever. It's powered by magic. Stoves, all of the conveniences that kind of made the Industrial Revolution kind of a drastically societal shifting thing, never happened, at least not in this country, because there was always magic. But so magic kind of has such a powerful hold over the country that it's not officially on par with the actual ruling government, but it basically might. It might, by default, it might as well be. So there is a kind of like, if you're a mage, you're a high-standing member of society. You have a lot of power. You have a lot of entitlement. There's a lot you can do. It's also a bit of an old boys club. And so, not that there aren't female mages, but like I don't know if you noticed, there aren't any female mages.
You know what? This is gonna shock you. I did notice that.
Yeah. So there's no official rule in the world that you can't be, but like it's pretty hard. And as Roz discovers when she, in her brief time at the academies, there's a very predatory thing towards women at the academies.
Yeah.
And that's part of her backstory. It's just all of that. So she has a lot of personal malice towards mages because of her personal experience, very negative experience, traumatic experience at the academy, or because of the academy rather. But there's also kind of a societal connotation of what mages are, and she does not associate it. She's not, none of it.
She does not. Yeah. That's very counter to her.
Yeah. She's a lady of the people. She lives in like the crappiest neighborhood in like the shadiest city in the country. You know what I mean? Like, and grew up there. Like this is her background. So she feels very comfortable in it and very uncomfortable outside of it. I think. Yeah. To some degree. She kind of takes some people kind of shrink in when they go to an environment they're not comfortable with. She instead carries a bubble of her around her at all times. So like wherever she is, even if she's in the palace, there's just a small bubble of her crappy neighborhood that surrounds her. So if you interact with her, you have to like enter that.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, you can have my skills, but I'm gonna like, curse and be completely irreverent the whole time, even in this like you were saying in the palace, like with that, which I thought was a delightful
very
juxtaposition.
Irreverent.
Because anytime that like upper crusty, people are uncomfortable, I think is hilarious, especially in a fantasy setting. So,
and there were definitely a lot of pearl clutching going on in some Goodreads. I mean, it's so hot and cold.
Oh, you mean like actual readers,
reviewers, on Goodreads and stuff like that. I don't know why maybe my skin has gotten thick enough that I don't mind looking through that stuff now. It doesn't really bother
look at
me.
you, look at you reading Goodreads. Oh my!
I know. I've gotten to that level.
Someone commented recently about I think it was a fantasy book too, that somebody had left what they, as a reader, had, it was clearly intended to be a negative review, but it said something like, I thought this was going to be, well thought, or, highbrow sci-fi, but it ended up just being like cocktail parties and espionage or something like that. And the person who it was commenting about this was like, that made me want to read the book. Not to say that, like, you have negative reviews, but if somebody was like, this character was too profane for me, I'd be like, oh, yes, sign me up. Like, she's so funny, though.
That is actually something that did happen. I started, for my own amusement, posting Goodreads reviews on my Twitter account because my new Twitter account is just like, that's the vibe, I guess. So
I like your new Twitter account. Follow JS Kelley.
JS_Kelley.
Sorry, JS_Kelley.
Yeah, because the underscore looks cool.
You gotta get it. Does it looks more?
And also regular JS Kelley just wasn't available. But anyway, so one of the things I posted was like this 1-star review in which the lady was just like, it was horrible and offensive, and I couldn't even get to the first chapter. It's just so foul and I just posted that, and I was just like, yes.
Success.
Win. Check that box. And somebody actually replied and was like, "Thank you for this interesting review. It has definitely convinced me to buy the book." So I mean, that's the thing. There are definitely probably more reviews of people saying like, well, the big, there are some reviews who are like, she's crazy, I love her. The largest percentage was, I didn't know it at first. She's very intense, but like over time, I realized she's really a good person underneath. There was a lot of that, which
but
I feel like
she wasn't. Sorry.
No, I feel like if you get through the scene with her dad and you don't see the heart behind it, like I don't know if you're just not paying attention.
Right.
That's to be fair, that's like 10 chapters in.
That's pretty deep into the book, yeah. But I also love that, like, I don't, we have this conversation, I think, all the time in like, the book area of, like, characters being likable. And Roz is not likable. But Roz is, at the end, I think Roz is likable. But not in the way that, like, we all want. Roz is less...
She's not nice.
Palatable. She's not nice. But I think that the things that one likes about her as they're reading are, that she's brash and that she's good at her job and that she, gets things done and she's loyal. Even like that, I thought was really interesting. Like the dynamics between, for a person who's sort of like, like House. I don't know, to bring up a popular Fox television show from 2004,
which is totally that I've definitely seen.
You're like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've seen.
I don't watch a lot of TV.
All 8 seasons or whatever. No. But where you don't necessarily, it's the sort of outer shell, and then once you get into it, you're like, oh, you do kind of care, even though you're like, I don't like people, get away from me. But then you're like, oh, but like I'll die for this person or whatever. Like
Roz isn't quite like curmudgeonly like that. She loves people. Like she's a people person.
But she doesn't.
But she's not
try
nice.
to get them to exactly. She's not trying to play the game.
She's not trying to please anyone.
Exactly.
I think at the end of the day, she doesn't believe she can.
That's a really
so why try?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great.
At the end of the day, I think that's kind of her thought process. It's like I'll never be able to make people happy, and I'm tired of trying.
So like, why even? Yeah. That's a great.
And I think another thing that kind of goes a long way in terms of making her more palatable, despite her many, many rough edges, is she's funny.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. That's
really funny.
That's such a, and I think that the skill that is involved in making that's one of the things I've always loved about your books is that they may be dark. I like dark books, but not everybody does. But there is always humor, and I love that came through in every scene that Roz is in. That's
just life. We joke all the time. Most people. I actually know people who don't, but I would say that the majority of us, you know, even when times are dark or sad or whatever, we still make jokes. You know what I mean? Like I recently went to one of my best friends' his mother passed away from after a couple of years of just horrible cancer, and it was heartbreaking and very upsetting. But that doesn't mean that we weren't like, you know, at the wake afterwards that we weren't like cracking jokes, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like she was a funny lady, so like why would we not honor that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so. I've never understood the idea that humor doesn't have a place in kind of darkness or sadness or whatever. I feel like it's always there. Specifically with this book, because it's a kind of a crime novel.
Mm-hmm.
I one of the things that I indulged myself in is she and her partner have these conversations that like I feel that are very much an homage to like early Tarantino.
Mm.
I don't know if you noticed that or not. Like, you know, I'm talking about like the John Travolta, Sam Jackson stuff.
I'm not a huge Tarantino fan, but I still love the dynamic. In your setting, I thought it worked very well.
I thought, yeah, I mean,
and it is definitely got those vibes.
In high school, I was so obsessed. I watched that movie. It was at the like $1 theater back when we had $1 theater. I don't think they have those anymore.
$1? American dollar.
It wasn't actually $1. It was like $1.75. But like, but they had these like second run theaters, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is before they just sent everything to video on demand,
right?
Because they didn't have video on demand.
Yeah.
So instead, what they would do is they'd have the first run theaters, the big ones, the main ones, and then after a couple of months, once it lessened in popularity, if it was still fairly popular, they would put it in these second run theaters, which was like whole theaters dedicated to like movies that have been around for a little while.
Yeah, so we still have one over. Well, I hope it's still the Cinema Draft House over at
Arlington. Oh yeah. So I would, my friends and we would watch Pulp Fiction every weekend at one of those, you know, for like months.
Wow.
Yeah, no, we were obsessed with it.
That's amazing.
And so there's definitely this kind of banter between her and her partner Lysander that is reminiscent of that. You know, they talk about. She's like, you know, talking about like. You know why it's rude to be late, and you know, and like you when you're late, you're saying that you don't value that person's time.
That conversation is so iconic.
But it's not like, you know, I mean, these are not like snooty highbrow people. These are two people who have just gotten into a bar fight, sitting around and drinking whiskey, but that's what they're talking about.
And they know each other so well. I think that's what I really liked was just
their whole lives. They've known each other their whole lives. Yeah,
that you can really feel that the years of friendship. Okay, well, I said we weren't going to talk about Roswell.
Yeah. Sorry. I was like, I could go on forever about Roswell.
We're gonna make this a short and sweet video. Tell me about what's coming up.
Okay. Well, we were talking about noir just a bit.
Yeah, go for it.
So,
the dog's still here.
So
don't worry.
I wanted to explore noir specifically, in part because I was actually working on a totally separate project that died and may never see the light of day. Wow. Yeah, but this is often how it works. You know, a failure is not a failure. You know what I mean? Like a failure, you can still get a lot from it and use a lot from it. And so I've been researching noir for a totally separate project, and then that project didn't pan out. But I had kept thinking about this Raymond Chandler novel, The Long Goodbye. And I know a lot of people talk about The Big Sleep as like his main thing. And I agree, like if we're talking about like, you know, The Big Sleep is like his Macbeth. Like, you know, it's tight, it's clean, it's just like in, out, boom, you know, like with Shakespeare, like come on, like Macbeth is like, it's the shortest, it's clear, concise, it gets in there, does its thing, and like gets out. It's just like peace, you know.
Deuces.
But and The Big Sleep is like that. It's early Chandler, and not early Chandler, but fairly early Chandler, and it's early noir as a genre. But and that's like late 30s, but like early 40s when he was writing the Long Goodbye. It's a longer book, significantly longer book. It's a sadder book. It's still, I mean, Philip Marlowe, the character, he's still funny, and that's something that like I really kind of took for Roz as this kind of like smart-ass, wisecracking, you know, a noir detective. But there's also this kind of, as the story progresses, there's an unease that kind of slowly emerges until by the end of the book, Philip Marlowe and Raymond Chandler and you, the reader, are beginning to see the McCarthyism on the rise. There's this kind of rising kind of paranoia, kind of like, oh, you got to be American to do it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not something that Marlowe or Chandler really can relate to, and they don't. You know what I mean? There's this kind of unease of kind of watching it appear and knowing that this is the end of an era. And I found that really kind of interesting. So that was one element. Another element is the thing that like, and I also, another big inspiration was Jessica Jones. More the comics than the show. The show was fine. I thought Christian Ritter was lovely. Second season kind of fell apart, but like, you know, it had its moments. But the books, especially that initial run by what's his name? Brian. No. Good Lord, why can I not remember his name?
No.
Brian Michael.
Not Brian Vaughan, is it?
No, God no.
Anyway, I'm like comic book knowledge.
Oh, why can't the guy who made he's invented a couple of characters. Miles Morales. You know, why can I think?
Oh wow.
Yeah. Thank you, Bendis.
Wow.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great job. Great job. Shout out to Rosie.
That was gonna kill me. Bendis's initial run on Jessica Jones went back in their deceased Marvel's deceased Max line because it was the 90s and everything was to the max. You know?
That was truly the 90s. The 90s energy.
Yeah. But so a lot of that as well because that was kind of more modern noir, and then also some Veronica Mars kind of. You know, I mean, I took inspiration from a lot of different angles of noir because ultimately, like the original noir, classic noir, it's very kind of like toxic masculinity, a lot of like a lot of homophobia. Like there's a lot of unpleasantness in noir, but I think that's all trappings and conventions. And if you can strip it down to its very, very core, what noir is it's this acknowledgement that there is no black and white. You know, that everything is some sort of moral shade of gray. And what do you do with that? And how do you survive that with your soul intact? And I think that's ultimately Roz's struggle and her goal. I don't think she believes in absolutes. I don't think she believes in black and whites. I don't think she thinks they exist. I think she did when she was younger, but you know, a lot of stuff has happened to her, and I think she views that as naive to think that there is such a thing as black and white, a good, bad, yes, no. Like, and so noir itself is grappling with this fact that there are no moral absolutes, and that's, you know, kind of what I was working on with her.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. I'm not a mystery reader, nor do I have a particular interest in noir. Although I did love the Edgar Cantero one he did. That's sort of like a fun parody of noir. More that. That's not the point. But I loved you. Like drew me in with the fantasy element, and then kept me there with Roz because Roz is fantastic. So I was like, oh my gosh, should I read noir? No, I should not because, like you said, a lot of the
I mean I would say Raymond Chandler might be worth a look, but Dashiell Hammett, obviously very famous, Maltese Falcon, Mickey Spillane with his Mike Hammer books, all of that is interesting from a historical archival standpoint, and some of it is skillfully executed, but there's a lot that goes along with it, particularly Dashiell Hammett. I mean. The original literary Sam Spade was kind of a horrible human. So, I mean, Bogart does a lot to kind of bring out some charm to Sam Spade. But, But
that's just a note. Anyone who doesn't like noir, you should still read the book. Gotta read
Yeah. I mean, I have a very kind of aggressively deconstructed idea of noir. So, you know, it's more like if you like Jessica Jones, you'll like this.
So tell me what more could we perhaps look for in the future from you or perhaps from Roz?
Well, so we don't the contract for this with Simon & Schuster's Saga Press imprint was just for one book. I actually have a whole other parallel thing going with Orbit that's still ongoing. I just came, you know, it's my current trilogy, The Goddess War. The second book in the trilogy just came out last April. And the third book will be out next April. And that will probably be the last book I write under the name John Scavran. Well, it will definitely be the last book I write under the name John Scavran. I don't know if I'll write all the books going forward under J.S. Kelley or not. That's TBD, I guess.
Stay tuned.
I reserve the right to change my mind. As of right now, it's the plan. But so I have that coming out. So that's that's the next thing coming out. That'll be the Wizard of Eventide, Now, the way that my contracts work is that, like, technically, Saga Press only has an option clause for potential additional Gutter Mage novels.
Gotcha.
But I mean, if they want, so we haven't decided yet whether we're going to do more Gutter Mage. I did make it clear to my editor that I'm happy to do thrilled to do more Gutter Mage novels because Roz lives in my head anyway, so it's just kind of fun to let her out now and again. That said, it's not a fantasy series; it's a mystery series. So it would be close. The structure would be more like a self-contained plot for each book.
Yeah.
There would be some character progression from book to book for her and the rest of the main cast, but yeah, like it would be very much each book would be a self-contained mystery. Ideally, each book you could pick it up and read them out of order and still enjoy them and not feel like you're missing out on anything.
Yeah.
So it would be like a mystery series, and I think that I would love to do that. I don't know how feasible that is. We'll wait and see on that. But yeah, so additionally, I have a bunch of kids stuff coming out.
Writes in every genre.
Me too.
Or every age. I guess I shouldn't call that a genre.
Well, yeah. So my last kids book, my last middle grade, was through Scholastic, and that was The Hacker's Key, which we did a thing with you guys.
We did. It was fun. Everyone should go. It's on YouTube still. You can go watch it on our YouTube.
It was with Diana Peterfreund and I talking about it, and that was a spy thriller. My next YA thing, or middle grade thing, would be not that. At all.
A different thing.
It's going to be through Abrams. Abrams is publishing I'm working with Hasbro.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. We're making a G.I. Joe middle grade series.
So pumped.
And people constantly are like, why G.I. Joe?
Why not G.I. Joe?
I mean, my brother was like, just to celebrate the military and just real complex literature. And it's not that. I mean, I'm not a military person. There's no military-ness in it. We're definitely going more for it's a middle grade book, right? So it's actually an after-school club.
Yeah.
The average Joe's club is what I know.
Oh, I get it.
Any average Joe would help you out, And so that's a trilogy that I can't really talk about the details much yet. But yeah, that'll be at least 3 books.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
All right, you're busy.
Yeah, so that'll be, and I think they're coming out every 6 months or every year. I don't even know at this point.
All right, so you're at 12 now. You said.
So yeah. So that'll be Wizard of Eventide will be 13. And then these 3 will be up to 14, and then the last book, which I've is going to be through Scholastic, and it's a middle grade again. Very different from my last Scholastic middle grade though. It's called I don't know if I can really let's do it.
Say it out loud.
No one's
noticing. What's the secret? Everyone be quiet about it.
Yeah, I'm announcing this.
Sorry.
Well, we should look at those in a second.
Should.
So it's going to be called The Ghost of Drowned Meadow.
Ooh, love that.
And it is a fiction. It is set in contemporary mostly, but it is based on a horrible thing that I kind of stumbled across, somewhat by accident. And I just, as I continue through the world, I keep being utterly mystified why this is not better known. There was a Nazi summer camp in Long Island in the 1930s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was so popular at one point that there was a dedicated train called the Siegfried Special, Siegfried being like an ancient, Germanic hero of old.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, the Siegfried Special was a train that went out, picked up people from all over the greater New York area and took them out to this small place out in Yaphank, Long Island. And and it was run by the German American Bund, which was a kind of a Nazi wannabe group. And they it was terrifying. It's haunting, and it's frustrating because there just isn't a lot about it. I ended up. There were a couple of books that have maybe a couple of paragraphs, maybe half a chapter dedicated. It's never something that's in the focus. Like if you read something about German American Bund, you might get a little bit about it. Yeah. But so I actually had to go back to some primary source material just to get
research.
Yeah. I mean, there was one book written about it back in like the 70s or 80s, but it's been out of print for so long, and with Library of Congress and everything shut down because of the pandemic, I couldn't even get to that. So I had to go back to the primary source materials, mostly the Dice Committee on Un-American Affairs, which later became very scary with the McCarthyism stuff,
Yeah.
but early on was actually created in order to kind of stamp out communism in the 1930s, but also Nazism, which was, you know, I mean, let's keep in mind that, what's his name, the St. Louis, the Lindbergh, Charles Lindbergh, he was a hero at that time, but he was also a Nazi sympathizer. And he was, you know, there was some presidential potential for him. So, you know, it was a thing, Nazism in America in the 1930s. And this camp was not only there, it was to train allowing adults to train in like military arms and stuff like that, but it was also modeled after the Hitler Youth. And so they would bring kids from all over for the summer, and there was like it was horrible. Child labor, kids died, you know. Oh yeah. No,
You read a middle grade novel about this?
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
There are
sure,
things.
but...
Well, I will admit there is one element of it that is so horrible that after some discussion with my editor, we agreed was not appropriate for a middle grade novel. So that one
people
bit,
can, and that's not announced yet, so you can't pre-order that yet.
No,
but you can pre-order.
Yeah, you can pre-order
Eventide.
You can pre-order Wizard of Eventide. You can actually weirdly pre-order the first G.I. Joe book,
even
though it has no cover. And it has like kind of like a placeholder title.
Love that. Love that. The mystery is alive.
I didn't even know it was up. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I can talk about it because it's on Amazon. If you search under J.S. Kelley, you'll find it.
You don't say that word here. Okay, so let me read some more comments. That's okay. Enjoy the. Oh yes, you can order a copy of Gutter Mage. We'll have signed book plates. Oh, Beckett! Hi, Beckett. Fascinating ideas about noir. Thank you. And then, is that Rodney? Yes, this is Rodney. There he is. Hi, the star of the show. Hi, Beckett. Beckett, I have known Beckett since I was 13 years old.
Oh.
These earrings Beckett gave me for my graduation from high school. Thanks, Beckett. So anyway, okay, so that's about that. We'll have some signed book plates for Gutter Mage. If anyone wants one or a bunch, they should get them now and order them. It would be a great holiday gift, honestly. So plan ahead now.
It's a short book too.
Yeah.
Worth noting.
Right.
I've written a lot of door stoppers. And this was it's because it's structured like a fantasy, like a mystery noir. It's lean and it doesn't mess around. There's no side quests, nothing like nonsense like that.
It's so like you said, in and out.
Yeah, it gets in, it gets out. You know, it does the same.
About it. Okay. Roddy needs to go out for a walk, so we're gonna say goodbye. Thank you all for tuning in or for watching later.
And special thanks to the leaf blower.
Thank you so much for shout out to the leaf blower, the real star of the show. Sorry, Rodney is the second build, obviously. But yeah, thank you so much, Kelley, for coming out and hanging out.
Absolutely my pleasure.
It's so good to see you again after so long. I'm gonna put Roddy down here so I can hit. There you go, buddy. So I can say thank you again to everyone and order your books, and we'll see you next time.